At ease gamers, this is Game Sergeant Scurry. Today is going to be a different video than I'm used to. So, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate is on the way to the Nintendo Switch, and the release date is only getting closer. I wanted to do this video before the game was even announced in the Spring 2018 Nintendo Direct, but the announcement came out of nowhere. Then I had to completely redo my list to accommodate for a certain newcomer that was announced in that Direct, and hopefully have it ready for E3. Then E3 came way too quick as well, and a certain other newcomer was announced that messed up my whole plan for this video. Also, the statement Sakurai made about not expecting too many fighters made me have to really think about how to narrow this list down. Well, long story short, this is going to be my Super Smash Bros. Ultimate Most Wanted list, or SBU Most Wanted list for short. It was originally going to be a top 10 list, but I narrowed it down to the top 5 that I wanted to see the most, which was pretty difficult. But anyway, let's move out. Number 5.
Transcending history and the world, a tale of souls and swords, eternally retold.
Nightmare! I know we already have Bandai Namco representation in Smash Bros. With Pac-Man, but that's child's play when it comes to some of the company's other iconic characters. I do believe that if another character from Bandai Namco were to appear in Smash, it would more likely be Heihachi or Jin from Tekken rather than Nightmare from Soul Calibur. But I haven't played any Tekken games, and personally, Nightmare just seems like a much cooler character. Now, the obvious facepalm with this character is that Nightmare is yet another sword user, and I know I've definitely criticized the game for having too many sword-wielding characters, and I know that there are a ton of other characters from Soul Calibur that don't use swords that would be excellent additions to Smash. Talim and Tira are the first two that come to mind in terms of unique weapon and moveset potential, but I'm looking at this from a realistic perspective. Nightmare is the series mascot, so he would have to be the go-to inclusion. The way I see it, that just adds to a lacking lineup of heavyweight and villain characters. Also, since we now have Echo fighters, they could add Siegfried as Nightmare's Echo. As for his final smash, they could probably use the critical edge move from Soul Calibur 5, or if they do something that's a bit more flashy in Soul Calibur 6, then they could do that. Now think about this. With Soul Calibur 6 on the horizon and still no announcement for our Nintendo Switch version of the game, wouldn't it be such an awesome move if, let's say, we get a Nintendo Direct in the fall, and in the finale, they show that Soul Calibur 6 will finally be coming to the Nintendo Switch. And then, right at the end of the trailer, we see a Smash character reveal saying, "Oh yeah, by the way, Nightmare is coming to Smash," while simultaneously showing a Fire Emblem character, or maybe Link, coming to Soul Calibur 6. Even though I don't see anything like that actually happening, even if Nightmare were to come to Smash, I still believe that could be one of the coolest video game cross-promotions ever. Like a Jimmy Timmy Power Hour kind of thing. Number 4. Springman! It really is a shame that ARMS' popularity basically dropped to the ground right after the last content update. It sucks too, because it was definitely one of my favorite games of 2017. Having said that, I do see and understand the many criticisms the game received, which is why I hope that this isn't just a one-and-done game because of how much its popularity dropped. I think that a sequel to the game in the near future would be a perfect opportunity to iron out the issues that most people had with the game. Now, in terms of Smash, I think that they should still include an ARMS character in the roster. The ARMS fighting style is perfect Smash character material, and honestly, any ARMS character would fit the same slot, but since Springman is the mascot, obviously he would be the one to be included. However, they could definitely add Ribbon Girl as an Echo fighter. I think it would be cool if you could maybe switch between 3 different arm types, like the Toaster, the Boomerang, and the Tri-Bolt for Springman, for example, to kind of add a bit more complexity than just punching. The final smash could also be easy, just do a flurry of punches like Donkey Kong and Little Mac. This would hopefully also introduce ARMS to more casual audiences who buy Smash. I just hope they don't try to act like this game never happened, and even if they do, at least put a character in Smash Bros. First, and then you can forget about it. Number 3.
Think you can take me? 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 Think you don't forget me? Don't forget me! 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 Don't forget me!
Rex and Pyra. Now that Monolith Soft has 2 more massive open-world JRPG titles under their belt, I believe it's time that the Xenoblade Chronicles series gets the recognition it deserves, especially since the series has become massively popular in comparison to how it was on the Wii. The Wii sold over 100 million units, and just under 1 million copies of the original Xenoblade Chronicles were sold. Additionally, only 500,000 copies of the Nintendo 3DS version were sold, so that's about 1.5 million. However, for Xenoblade Chronicles 2 to sell 1.5 million copies in only half a year, when only 20 million systems have been sold so far, and the system's only been out on the market for a year, that's crazy to think about how popular the series has gotten. With that being said, I believe Rex and Pyra would be an excellent addition to the roster. Yes, I know that once again they use a sword, but come on, that's not the point. I noticed that whenever people bring either Rex or Pyra up, they only seem to ever mention them by themselves. However, if one shows up at all, they both have to show up as a pair. Rex and Pyra are inseparable in Xenoblade Chronicles 2, so it only makes sense to have them stick together as a fighter in Smash. Coming up with a moveset shouldn't be difficult either. Rex has 4 combat arts that he can use with the sword in the game, so the developers could easily make those the specials. Maybe as Rex accumulates damage, Pyra can use blade arts to buff Rex up, and after enough time, Pyra could use a blade special move where she jumps in and attacks, and the final smash could be Burning Sword or Sacred Arrow. They could even add the Quick Press event to the final smash just to make it more like how it works in the game. I also see a lot of potential for alternate costumes, or even a potential Echo Fighter. They could easily use Mithra as an alternate of Pyra, or dare I say, Numa. I wouldn't be surprised to see Zeke and Pandoria as an Echo Fighter as well. I doubt they would though, since Zeke is much bigger than Rex, and he fights a little bit differently than Rex, but I still could see it happen. Number 2. Mipha! Next was a somewhat difficult choice between the 4 champions from The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. I thought that Mipha, Urbosa, and Revali would have made excellent fighters were they to be put in Smash. I know I left out another important one with Daruk, and while I do consider him my favorite of the 4 champions, I don't see him as Smash Bros. Material, at least not as much as the other 3. I ended up not choosing Revali either because even though he's my second favorite of the 4, and this might sound weird, but I feel like casual players might get him mixed up with Falco. Literally the first thing I even said as soon as I saw Revali in that 2016 Game Awards trailer was, wait, hold up, is that Falco? And unfortunately, that's the only reason I didn't consider Revali. Now, I had to think long and hard about whether to go with Mipha or Urbosa. For a while, I just thought, let's just make it a tie. But I didn't want to half-ass this list. Both of their designs are my second favorites in the whole Zelda series, next to Sheik, and both designs would give Smash a more contrast in its roster. I do prefer Urbosa's personality and voice actor, but she uses a scimitar, which is just a Middle Eastern sword, and a shield to fight, which again we have way too many of. And this time I was able to consider not choosing her, because we have 3 other equally important characters from Breath of the Wild to choose from. I eventually went with Mipha for a couple reasons. The first being that she uses a lance, or I guess it's technically a trident, but that's just another word for 3-pointed lance. and we don't have any character that uses a lance in Smash Bros. I don't know what it is about lances, but anytime I see a character use a lance, they've always been among the most flashy fighters in the game. Like in Fire Emblem, you'd always see them spinning the lances and naginatas like they're in the color guard or something. Lancer from Fate Extella is another good example. Holy shit, he's super flashy in that game, and in the Fate anime as well. The other reason I chose Mipha is that she's most often the first of the 4 champions you see in Breath of the Wild. I said most often because obviously it just depends on which one you run into first, but the game was clearly mapped out so that you would most likely run into Vah Ruta before any of the other divine beasts. Alternate costumes for Mipha wouldn't be difficult either. Within Breath of the Wild, there are many different colored Zoras that her alts could be based on. You also have the classic translucent design of the Zoras in the earlier Legend of Zelda titles. Her final smash could easily be Divine Beast Vah Ruta. That would actually be pretty badass if something like that happened. Now that I think about it, Mipha being a fighter in Smash actually seems more likely to me than Springman, which is kind of sad to me, but honestly, I wouldn't mind it. Number 1. This last character I thought long and hard about, and it was actually a super close toss-up between this and the 2 previous ones. But after multiple long debates in the back of my head, it all came down to this one that I just could not stop thinking about. Well, here it is.
Somebody once told me the world is gonna roll me. I ain't the sharpest tool in the shed.
Why, that's ever gonna happen?
The real number 1.
Hey there. My name's Elma.
Elma. I know I already mentioned another character from a Xenoblade Chronicles game, and I also know that if there were to be another character from the series added to the game, it would more likely be a character from the game that was more well known. Xenoblade Chronicles X may not have sold anywhere near as well as Xenoblade Chronicles 2 due to it being on the Wii U, but for a JRPG to sell just under a million copies for a system that only sold 13.5 million units, that's actually pretty good. Personally, I liked Xenoblade Chronicles X better than 2 for many reasons, the main one just being the size and the seamlessness of the world. Now, as for Elma, while she's not my favorite character in the game, that would have to be a close call between Vandom and Lao, she's still my 3rd favorite character in the game, and since she's essentially the main character, and the only other character that would fit that description is Cross, the customizable character, it makes the most sense for her to be included. I really love her combat style. In the game, she uses dual guns and dual swords, switching between them frequently. That could make for a really unique moveset. Then there's the combat arts, which work more like they did in the first Xenoblade than they did in Xenoblade Chronicles 2, and those could easily be the special moves. Then there's of course the final smash, which obviously has to be a skill. Going back on topic, alternate costumes for Elma would be pretty easy as well, since in the game you can freely customize her outfit. There's also the possibility that her outfits would be based on the other female characters in the game like Lyn, Irina, Murderess, etc. Then there's also a certain something that happens to Elma super late in the game that changes her appearance just a bit, and that could potentially be an alternate costume, but I don't think they would do that. I hope not anyway, because talk about the spoiler of the century. Whatever they decide to do, I just hope that Xenoblade Chronicles X gets Smash recognition in some way. Like, I would literally buy the game, the special edition of the game, if it exists, twice if Elma were to be playable in Smash. Please make her playable in Smash. Sakurai? Please? Just kidding. But not just kidding. But anyway, that about wraps up my Smash Most Wanted list. Make sure to click on the notification bell if you're subscribed so you'll be able to see when the video where I predict Elma's moveset releases. If you enjoyed this video and would definitely like to see more heavily edited videos like this in the future, then send a salute my way by hitting the like button. Also, let me know in the comments, do you agree with any of these choices? What other new characters would you love to see playable in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate? I'll be interested to see what you have to say. Oh yeah, and subscribe while you're at it. So, take care, and carry on.